should be up and running here. Got about 1 minute 45 seconds until the close. So we'll take a look at closing price for the market on this interesting volatile day where the Fed minutes were also released. All right. And talk about what to expect going into tomorrow. Let's get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for April 6th, 2022. Now, the last couple days have stayed bullish on the Qs and SPY. Okay, last couple days. All right. Wanted to see if we were going to hold this support here on the Qs. We did have a little bit of a deep pullback there on the Qs. I thought we were going to get a sell setup. Sell setup failed. But then also after failing, we had this reversal right back down. And even then I wanted to see, okay, is this support going to hold? Okay. We did see this hourly breakdown, right? We were looking for a deeper pullback, but the bounce was a little bit stronger than I expected. And for that last pullback, what were we looking for? Pullback to the rising 20. Now, we've been kind of talking about this potential pullback to the rising 20 for maybe 2 weeks, something like that, throughout this move up, which is why, you know, as it kind of got late in the game, as we were crossing 200, I was saying, you know, it's a little bit late to be going starting new longs here until we get a decent pullback. Now, the way that we did the pullback is interesting because really we just kind of gapped to it. There's the closing bell. All right, so you can see today's gap here. A little bit bigger on the Qs. So we kind of just gapped to it. So especially if you trade gaps and you're in the room with us, you know that this is a pro gap, and pro gap we consider to be igniting moves. So this is not the way that I would want to see a pullback, or at least a bullish way to pull back. Okay, so what does that all mean, right? Given what we got, we wanted to see a pullback. We expect the pullback to be bullish, but the way that we did it, kind of through a gap, is a little bit more bearish than we want to see. So how do we kind of process all this into for tomorrow? So for me, because of the way that we gapped, right, even though I was bullish, the way that we gapped, I have to change that. So because of today's gap down, the break of support that didn't hold, I'm going to be a neutral going into tomorrow. Okay. If we gap up, I'm going to stay neutral. If we're flat, I'm going to stay neutral. If we gap down or if we sell off underneath today's low, bearish. Okay. Bearish until the hourly goes back into an uptrend. Okay. Now, through all this, right, we've stayed bullish, but said, okay, I'm anticipating a bullish pullback. Well, now that we've seen the pullback, it's not that bullish of a pullback. And we can see here the daily, the weekly has this weekly sell setup. It's 100% retracement on the weekly sell setup. Since this breakdown here, that's typically not how we want to see these sell setups form, but it is a sell setup nonetheless. Okay, so it is still a bearish pattern. Not a perfect one, but it is a bearish pattern on the weekly. Okay, so there it is on the Qs. Here it is on the SPY. Again, right, 100% retracement. Why are these typically not ideal or not the most bearish? Is because, you know, equal highs and in turn equal lows is not a downtrend. That means a sideways trend. Could we be going into a sideways trend for the next few weeks or days? We could be, but it's hard to know that. You don't know what the range is until we've gotten the retest, until the range has been established, right? So for right now, I am going with a neutral bias, okay? And then underneath today's low will be bearish, okay? So yeah, with today's gap down in combination with yesterday's sell-off, right? Today's lack of a real bounce after the gap down, all of that, no longer bullish on the Qs and SPY. We're going to go neutral, really wait and see. We've seen this before in the past too from FOMC events before. We've seen kind of bullish days. We've seen gap downs underneath bullish days. The most recent one that we had, where we just had a complete reversal of a move up, was right here, right? So you can see here, FOMC on this day. I think the last one was pretty quiet in March in comparison and didn't have the same reversal, but very next day, you can see big move, very next day, gap down and took it out, okay? So there's always this kind of wait and see. You can see kind of the volatility that we got. It's a little bit easier to see on the lower time frames. We popped, we dropped, we ran back up, and then we kind of closed where we were. So, you know, all this volatility, when that's happening, for me, I'm kind of just hands off, letting it kind of work itself out. And then if I have any trades to manage, I just manage them. Today I didn't. And then tomorrow to see kind of how does it resolve, right? How does this range, this sloppy range, get fixed, right? So, you know, like I said, it's the same thing here. You know, when this is popping higher, you know, you can't really make the call that, okay, that's going to, you know, be the top. Or, you know, when this is moving lower like this, to say, you know, oh, this is going to be the range, right? There's really kind of no assumptions to be made here. Just kind of, it would be completely a guess. Well, that's ended up kind of being the case, right? If I take this and just extend it, that's what it is. So these, like when you get these ranges like this, it's hard to know until you've already seen actually a couple different moves not follow through, right? So the sell-off eventually got stopped and 100% retrace, and then the attempt to move higher got stopped and then almost 100% retrace. So, you know, this stuff is really hard to see coming ahead of time. I don't know if that's going to be the case for the Qs and SPY in the days and weeks to come. Right now, we're just going to work off of, all right, the hourly's back in a downtrend. The weekly, we have a sell set up. Okay, we'll see if those are going to be what guides us lower. We still have a bullish looking monthly. Daily is into support, so mixed signals here. Neutral for me tomorrow. Underneath today's low, I think that would be kind of the strongest bias I can have, and that would be a bearish bias. All right, let's go into the play from today. For me, this was the space here in the morning. Market was weak, was gapping down and showing a lot of weakness, so I chose the space to kind of play that weakness. Here was the space. That's the breakdown there. The daily was gapping down underneath a little bit of a base and was underneath the 20. Wanted to see how much of this it could get through. As the market kind of downtrended, it looked completely fine, looked good. But then when market started to bounce, so did the space. And what I didn't like about the space is the space started to bounce even more than the market did. And so it was showing just not relative strength, but just that it wasn't that weak. So we ended up trailing it over this, ended up being break-even play here because we entered underneath this space here to the left. So trailed out right there, and so basically break-even. So that's fine. You can see it went up and then had some other shenanigans going on. So I'm glad we got out of it. It was a little bit of an early trail. It was a break from management to do so because I wasn't that comfortable with it in the first place. The main reason for playing this was to play. That was my kind of like play with the market. I like the volume coming in. I like the daily breaking that base left, basically confirming a breakout, no follow through. So I liked everything about it. It wasn't really that special of a play, and that was what I intended. I thought it looked the best, had the most room that I could find, good pattern. 5 minute was just a textbook 1, 2, 3. So there it is. So I was fine with this play. Didn't make any money on it. That's fine. And then, what has been the case for the last few weeks continues to be the same. Nice little call there from Sammy on the AEI. These penny stocks are setting up some of the best patterns. We played the TANH yesterday, right? TANH on this base had to live through this pullback, right? But then did a nice job getting out of it there as it popped up to the new highs. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a nice pattern. Nice 15-minute pullback. It was really pretty. So I wanted to give it a shot. I know we've been playing a lot of these penny stocks, but it's what's given some of the nicest patterns and the nicest follow through. So I guess ultimately that's all that matters, right? All right. All right, so we'll be back at it tomorrow. Really interesting, pretty pivotal here. What's going on in the Qs and SPY? All right, as far as giving us some kind of bias for the days to come, we got a pretty decent bounce on the daily, and we've gone into a downtrend now on the hourly as we're pulling back. Okay, so you can kind of see the different push and pull forces going on, and that's why we have, daily, weekly, or the hourly and the weekly looking lower, and then the daily and the monthly looking higher. So, going to be neutral for me for tomorrow. All right, that's going to do it for today's market wrap. Hope you had a nice day. We'll be back at it tomorrow.